It's late September 2008. The Indian Ocean shimmers under the brutal equatorial sun. A Ukrainian freighter named MV Faina cuts through the waves, her steel hull humming, her crew thinking only of the next port, the next payday. But hidden beneath her decks is a secret that could ignite a regional conflict. Inside are 33 Soviet-era T-72 battle tanks, along with crates of rocket-propelled grenades, anti-aircraft guns, and thousands of rounds of ammunition, military cargo worth over $30 million. And within hours, this ship would become the center of an international crisis, hijacked by Somali pirates who stumbled upon what might have been the most dangerous shipment in modern maritime history. This is the true story of how a small band of pirates in speedboats triggered a 5-month global standoff involving the US Navy, Russia, and the governments of Kenya, Ukraine, and even the newly emerging South Sudan. It's a story of greed, desperation, diplomacy, and a fragile crew trapped between the world's superpowers. The MV Faina was built for heavy-duty cargo, a roll-on, roll-off freighter owned by a Ukrainian company and sailing under the Belize flag of convenience. In September 2008, it left the Ukrainian port of Oktyabrsk, bound for Mombasa, Kenya. Officially, the shipment was ordered for the Kenyan Defense Forces, meant to modernize its aging armored fleet. But there was a catch. Leaked manifests and intelligence reports later suggested that the end user might not actually be Kenya, but South Sudan, which at that time was under a United Nations arms embargo. South Sudan was still years away from independence, and sending it heavy tanks would have been illegal under international law. The Kenyan government denied this, insisting all cargo was for its own army. Still, the suspicion added a shadow of intrigue that would haunt the case long after the ship was released. So as the Faina steamed down through the Red Sea and into the Gulf of Aden, it carried not just tanks, but secrets. The Gulf of Aden was, and still is, one of the world's most dangerous shipping routes. In 2008, Somalia had no functioning central government. Its coastline had become a haven for pirates, often former fishermen who claimed foreign ships were looting Somali waters. But what began as self-defense turned into a booming criminal industry. On September 25, 2008, just off the Somali coast, the Faina's radar picked up 3 fast-moving boats. At first, the crew thought they were fishermen. Then they saw the AK-47s. Within minutes, ladders went up, gunmen climbed aboard, and the crew was overpowered. The pirates called themselves the Central Regional Coast Guard, insisting they weren't criminals but protectors of Somali sovereignty. They seized the bridge, forced the crew into the mess hall, and began checking what exactly they had captured. When they pried open the holds and saw dozens of armored tanks lined up like sleeping beasts, the pirates froze. They had no idea what they had just taken. At first, some thought the tanks were broken machines. Others believed they'd stumbled onto nuclear weapons. But once they realized their value, the tone changed fast. A radio message soon went out. The ship and crew were being held for $20 million. News of the hijacking spread quickly. The United States, already patrolling the region to protect oil routes, diverted warships to shadow the Faina. The USS Howard, an American guided missile destroyer, arrived first, followed by a Russian frigate, Neustrashimy, and several European naval vessels. Their mission: make sure not a single tank left that ship. Satellite photos soon showed the Faina anchored near the Somali town of Hobyo, surrounded by pirate skiffs. A tense standoff began. The pirates on deck, the crew locked below, and the world watching. The U.S. Defense Department released statements expressing deep concern that the cargo could be sold to extremist groups. The Kenyan government, meanwhile, reaffirmed that the shipment was legitimate and for its national defense, but the rumors of South Sudan's involvement only grew louder. At one point, the pirates publicly threatened to detonate the ship if any rescue attempt was made, killing themselves, the crew, and potentially triggering an explosion from the ammunition on board. But many analysts later believed this was bluff, a psychological tactic to raise the ransom's urgency. For the 21 crew members trapped on board, life became a test of endurance. They were forced to sleep in cramped quarters under constant guard. The tropical heat made the interior almost unbearable. Food supplies ran low, and the pirates grew increasingly nervous as international warships closed in. Days turned into weeks, then months. The pirates argued among themselves about how to split the eventual ransom. Those arguments turned violent. According to crew accounts, there was at least one shootout among the hijackers, leaving several dead or wounded. Tragically, the ship's captain, Viktor Nikolsky, died of a heart attack just days after the hijacking, his body kept in cold storage for months until the ship was freed. The pirates allowed Ukrainian crew members to conduct a brief ceremony, one of the few moments of humanity in an otherwise brutal ordeal. Negotiations were handled through local Somali elders and maritime security intermediaries. While the pirates insisted publicly on $20 million behind the scenes, offers began to drop, first to $10 million, then $5 million, until finally a deal began to take shape. While the negotiations dragged on, global politics swirled around the Faina like a storm. Ukraine's government faced international pressure to secure its citizens' release, but also had to manage its reputation after the cargo's true nature became public. Kenya remained defensive, emphasizing that all tanks and weapons were legally acquired and that Kenya had every right to strengthen its defenses. Meanwhile, South Sudan, though not officially part of the deal, became the unspoken third player in the background. Intelligence leaks suggested that the tanks were actually meant for Juba, where South Sudanese forces were preparing for an eventual split from the north. If true, it meant this hijacked shipment wasn't just a pirate problem, it was a potential violation of an international embargo that could complicate future peace agreements. The international naval forces hovering nearby couldn't intervene directly. Firing on the ship risked detonating the ammunition, and storming it risked killing the crew. So, for months, the world watched as a rusting freighter with 33 tanks became a floating time bomb. By February 2009, the pirates' patience began to run out. They were running short on food and fuel, and the warships circling nearby had made it impossible to offload any cargo. A smaller ransom was finally agreed upon, around $3.2 million, delivered by parachute from a small aircraft. Hours later, the pirates left the ship. The remaining crew members emerged, exhausted but alive, waving makeshift flags to signal their release. After more than 5 months in captivity, the MV Faina was finally free. When the ship docked at Mombasa, the cargo was unloaded under heavy security and photographed by journalists. Kenyan military officials confirmed the tanks were intended for their armed forces, and the incident was declared resolved. But behind closed doors, diplomats continued to question where those weapons were truly headed. The hijacking of the MV Faina became a defining moment in the global fight against piracy. It proved that pirates were no longer just hijacking merchant vessels for ransom. They were capable of seizing military hardware and altering international security dynamics. Within months, the United Nations authorized broader international naval patrols. NATO launched Operation Ocean Shield, and the European Union began Operation Atalanta, a coordinated anti-piracy effort in the Gulf of Aden. Shipping companies started hiring private security contractors, installing barbed wire, and rerouting ships thousands of miles to avoid Somali waters. For the pirates themselves, the Faina case marked both a high point and the beginning of their downfall. The world's navies tightened their grip on the region. By 2012, Somali piracy dropped dramatically, from over 100 hijackings a year to almost zero. But for the crew, the trauma lingered. In later interviews, survivors described the months of captivity as pure psychological warfare, isolation, heat, and the constant fear that one mistake could end their lives. The MV Faina incident remains one of the most extraordinary cases of maritime hijacking ever recorded. It exposed vulnerabilities in global shipping and showed how quickly a commercial route could become a geopolitical flashpoint. It also raised difficult questions that remain unanswered to this day. How did such a sensitive cargo end up sailing unescorted through pirate-infested waters? Who exactly financed and approved the shipment? And what guarantees were in place to ensure those tanks didn't end up fueling another war? The legacy of the Faina isn't just about piracy, it's about transparency, accountability, and the invisible networks that move weapons across the globe. It forced nations to re-examine how arms are transported and who is responsible when things go wrong. In the end, the pirates got their ransom, the crew got their freedom, the navies got their deterrence, and the world got a cautionary tale.